Welcome to the 1905 podcast with your hosts Joe Kevin and Chris Sheen. Joe and I have been going to Stamford Bridge for over 30 years. This podcast takes you inside our unfiltered voice notes on all things Chelsea, sharing our view from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes. Cole Palmer's record-breaking 4-goal first-half haul against Brighton has got the whole world talking about him. And in this episode, we discuss his genius and how important he could be for Chelsea for the next 9 years of his contract. We look forward to the visit of Nottingham Forest this weekend and thank Maresca for making Chelsea a team we can trust again. Let's start with Joe's live reactions to last weekend's win against the Seagulls.
It is Palmer!
Well, honestly, I'm going to try and get through this half-time note because I just cannot believe what I've just witnessed. Cole Palmer is a history maker. No player has ever scored 4 goals in a first half before. He had 4 goals before the 40th minute. I mean, the guy is a genius, a magician, an absolute godsend to this football club because, he just doesn't miss. He gets a chance, he takes it. It beggars belief that he is playing in blue for us, having come from the Giants and Man City at the moment. So I'm mind blown. I'm actually a little bit shocked sending the message because I just can't believe what I'm witnessing. I thought we'd seen almost the best of him last year, and I thought, can he repeat this season? Can he go on and do the things that he did? And I mean, at the moment, he's eclipsing everything. I'm going to try and rattle through some of the on-field play, and if I forget something, I can only apologise because I can barely breathe in that first half. I feel like I've run 45 minutes myself. Let's start with a good, shall we? Fantastic chase down from Jackson for the goal. What Noni Madueke could learn from, couldn't he? Gets the ball up into the position where he could just square it for Palmer, and he almost got himself in a bit of a pickle actually. But he found the right pass, and Palmer slid it in for the typical style FIFA goal, but lovely clinical. Defender going one way and he slid into the bottom corner. Oh, God. Second goal, again, some lovely play by Enzo. He's been really good today, by the way. Forward passing all day long, tracking back, making his tackles. Brilliant performance from Enzo. Plays a great pass through for Sancho. Twinkle toes his way through and 2 defenders collide to bring him down. Palmer clinical, 2-1 to Chelsea. Then there's that free kick. I mean, 23, 4, 5 yards out from goal. He literally has hit this thing. Postage stamp, Palmer. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I literally screamed at the top of my lungs when that went in. Just unplayable. One of the best finishes, best strikes of a football you're ever likely to see, ever, anywhere. Goal number 3, and then in between some interesting performances from Sanchez, our 4th goal, a remarkable ball from Sancho, a little ball through to the left-hand side of the box, and without even thinking, Palmer turn and swivel, smashes it into the bottom corner, left foot, right foot, doesn't matter with him, he can do it all. I feel like I do really feel like I've actually played in that game. It's incredible. The adrenaline's going in me so much. Let's go back to some bad stuff. I mean, I don't want to, but let's do it. Sancho, what are you doing? Sanchez, what are you doing in goal? He comes running out inside the first 5-6 minutes, whenever the goal went in early on in the first half. He doesn't need to do it. There's 3 or 4 Chelsea players all around that high ball. There's Brighton players all there. It's only ever going to be a 50-50 header between all those players, and obviously he then leaves his goal completely unopposed for the Brighton attacker just to nod into an empty net. Appalling. And then just as we're on top, flying 3-1 up, we've gone from 1-0 down to 3-1 up. A really poor pass out from the back, out of his goal, and yet again the thing that Sanchez cannot do, he cannot regularly and comfortably play out from the back from Chelsea. There's too many mistakes, and this is what I'm saying about him. If Chelsea don't play like that today in that first half, we're probably 2-0 down, maybe even 3-0 down. He's got a big half here because the Brighton fans are giving him absolute pelters behind the goal, and they're not going to stop. If he makes another mistake, I mean, it's borderline take him off because his confidence is shot to pieces in some cases. He did make a very good save towards the end of towards the end of the first half there. I'm making a few mistakes here because I'm literally heart pounding like a good one. But he needs a really big performance second half. Otherwise, you know, if you're Maresca, you've got to be thinking of making a switch. He's had 2 fairly decent games back to back in the league, Bournemouth and West Ham last week, but this is not a good performance from him. You know, he could have cost Chelsea the match so far. What I would say is that Chelsea are breaking on this Brighton high line time and time again. Jackson's been really unselfish with his running. He's chasing down all the defenders. He's chasing down the goalkeeper. Their goalkeeper made a slight mistake for the 4th goal for Chelsea. So I feel like we've got one back for our cock-up from Sanchez. Sancho has been a thorn in their side all afternoon. He's gone at the defender time and time again. 2 assists from him. A general real pain in the backside for them. But yeah, I think Gusto and Fofana on that right side have been interesting. Gusto going forward looks quite good. He looks a little bit uneasy against Matoma. He's been very good, Matoma, for Brighton. I've got to say, he's an outstanding football player. If there's anyone you could get from Brighton, he'd be the one you'd go and get. He's been magnificent. We've got to keep an eye on him, keep him in check for a while, keep him quiet on that left-hand side for Brighton. There's chances of Brighton in this game. We can't let this slip. To have a player score 4 goals in the first half for Chelsea and then to go on and draw or lose this game somehow would be an absolute criminal disaster. So, yes, come on you Blues. Final whistle was just gone. Absolutely pulsating game. This is what I wanted to see. I think Maresca has literally shored that team up at half time. We were a lot more solid. I thought the defence as a whole was much better. I really like the arrival of Vega. God, he's a player. He absolutely smashes into people. I love him to pieces. He's very good. I thought Gusto, credit where it's due, second half, he pretty much had Matoma in his pocket. And that's saying something. It was almost like he needed that first half to work him out. And in the second half, you could see he really had his number. I still was a little bit unsure of Fofana. Yeah, a couple of rash, reckless tackles right on the edge of the box. Cucurella had another decent game. Again, another disallowed goal for Chelsea. 3 disallowed goals. Palmer and Jackson could have had Palmer should have had 1. Jackson could have had 4 in the second half. He was a little bit unlucky with the one that when he went on the goalkeeper, the guy kicked it off the line, but he missed 2 or 3 sitters today. But he still had a very good game, so I'm not knocking him. I could hammer Sanchez all day long, and I think this is football, isn't it? If you lose 3-2 today or something, and 2 of those goals are cause of it, you know, he's going to get hammered. I think I want to see Jorgensen. I've said it for a while. I do want to see Jorgensen. But if he's going to be the number 1, I have to stick by him. If he's going to be the goalkeeper and that's who Maresca wants in the sticks, then that's who I have to believe in. So let's hope it was against his old team. They gave him a lot of stick. You know, let's hope it was just one of those nervous matches that will hopefully end here today. If not, then, you know, he has got an issue on his hands and Jorgensen might be sitting on the bench for much longer. Colwell, excellent, much better. Well, to be fair, he had a good game all round, but I thought he marshalled defence really well in the second half. Some really important blocks and interceptions. And we just kept the ball a lot better, which kind of kept Brighton. They kept probing all day long, Brighton. They kept going and going, but they couldn't quite find the 3rd goal. But Chelsea were excellent in the back there today. With regards to Enzo and Caicedo, I thought Enzo was excellent. By far and away outshone Caicedo today. For me, in the second half, Caicedo, too many little balls that kept getting intercepted. They were almost too quick for him in the midfield at times. Not to say that he had a terrible game, but he certainly has played better. And look, again, old club syndrome. Is there a little bit of a point to prove when you get sold to another team? I don't know, but he's had better days and he will have better days ahead. But Enzo himself was terrific, and I think he deserves a lot of credit. And again, a lot of forward passes, not misplaced passes either. And when Lavia came on for him, I thought he looked a really solid player. We've got to keep Lavia fit. He's so good on the ball. He can be trusted to receive it in midfield, turn and play those balls through to the wingers and Mudryk and Neto, who were on the second half. Didn't get a lot of opportunity to do that today, but he's kind of calmness from the ball is what Chelsea needed, just to settle things down. Neto, I thought, was busy. Some fantastic tackles from Neto, to be fair. He came back and made a brilliant slide and grab at one point, which is incredible. He is so fast, and I think he's going to be he's like a bumblebee. He's just annoying. I think he's going to be a real shot in the arm for this team going forward. So he was certainly someone that I'd be pleased to see more of as the season goes ahead. But I think at the moment, Nonny is probably getting the nod over him just about. But again, if he keeps squandering chances like he's doing, then I think Neto will be in the team again quicker than we think. Overall, that felt like a Chelsea team that knew what they were doing in the second half. That's Maresca's influence. That's him saying to the guys at half time, yeah, it's all very well playing like a basketball match, but we can't keep doing this. You're going to burn yourselves out. You're going to let them back into the game, and you're not guaranteed to score yourselves. So the control they had in the second half was much, much better. And this is Chelsea learning. They are learning. They're young boys. They're young men. They need to take results like this. 1-0 down, obviously 3-1 up, 3-2 up with a sloppy goal. They could have gone under. They didn't. They got a fourth goal. They should have had 5, 6, and 7. They didn't. And Brighton didn't really have many chances second half. They had quite a lot of the ball. Chelsea let them have the ball in kind of areas that they wanted them they wanted them to have it, but they didn't actually create too many chances, which is really good. I think overall, I'm really happy with what I saw. I mean, going forward, outstanding. Learning at the back. Yes, there was a couple of mistakes, but they weren't from the defenders. They were from the goalkeeper. And without him today, it would have been probably a clean sheet, possibly only conceded 1 goal. But you can't speak highly enough of what Maresca's doing for Chelsea and what he's doing for the club. He's really instilling his beliefs and his systems onto these guys, and they're all listening to it. Nobody seems disappointed when they're coming off. Nobody seems like there's no issues between substitutions. Everyone's pleased for the other person to come on and off. Of course, there's pride that they want to play. Of course they do, but I think that when you're winning and you're winning well, the players are always going to get behind you and back you. I thought the crowd today were excellent, by the way. I think that's worth mentioning. The crowd was superb, and just overall, I think that the team should be proud of what they did because, again, youngest team in the Premier League by some distance. Backed up, based on last season, they probably would have gone under in this game. Comfortably would have gone under. I have no question in my mind. Those 2 mistakes from Sanchez would have been a real problem for us. I mentioned the players in the first half. I won't go through them again, but just to say that Sancho obviously did really well, and some of the guys that went off too also were outstanding. So, yeah, really pleased with the team. Really pleased with how we're learning. We're not falling into the same traps of last season and the season before. So, God, you've got to be excited. Chelsea are playing some exhilarating football. It's fantastic. And credit to Brighton. They had a really good go. They didn't give up. You've got to give them credit for that. But you've had your day out. Now fuck off home.
Well, the dust has settled on an incredible game at the weekend, and got to say, Joe, give you a shout out for those voice notes because it felt like I was reliving the game, kicking every ball with you there. I really enjoyed it. And well, hasn't the media narrative shifted somewhat from Chelsea being the laughing stock of the league to now, I'm reading today, can Chelsea be title contenders? Are they up there with the City and Arsenal and Liverpool? And it's kind of funny, isn't it? Because on the one hand, I love it, clearly, and you want to see Chelsea being talked of in such a good way. The other part of me is almost a bit frustrated because it's amazing how quickly people can change. And, the narrative is completely shifted on Maresca being this championship manager who had no right to be at Chelsea to now being, the next Messiah. We've been saying right from the start of the season, including pre-season, that actually I think Chelsea are better than people are giving us credit for. We might surprise a few people. I think that was our kind of message before the season. And it seems like now we are. But I wanted to give a shout to Maresca. It's early days. Everything has to be tempered with that. But the football that we're seeing from Chelsea it's a joy to watch, isn't it? I think we were all worried about possession ball. A lot of Chelsea WhatsApp groups were probably much like ours. It's like, oh God, this could be really dull to watch if it's as bad as we've been told it could be. And we just haven't seen that. Apart from, you could argue, maybe the Man City game on the first game of the season when we had a lot of possession but didn't do much with it. But City do that to you. They'll kind of make you feel like you're in control of the game, but they're just ready to pounce on you when they want to. Ever since then, really, there's been a real fluidity in the way we play. I love how once we get into the final third, it moves very quickly. There's a lot of using those attacking players and making sure you get people like Sancho and Madueke in the right places, and obviously the geniuses make sure everything goes through the genius, which is Cole Palmer, and building the team around him might seem the most obvious thing to do, but many coaches wouldn't do that. And I think the fact that Maresca really has put him at the fulcrum of everything, kind of given him that role where he can go where he wants and just go and create. I mean, we'll talk about him in more detail later in this podcast, but wow, what he has done, what he's doing, Palmer, is, I think we're witnessing something really quite special. So I think Maresca deserves a lot of credit for that. I also think actually he deserves a lot of credit for the defensive side of things as well. Last year, under Pochettino, actually we did play some really nice football in the second half of the season particularly. It was fun to watch, but it always felt chaos ball, didn't it? Like, we might score 3, but we'll probably concede 2 or 3 as well. And you had that feeling where every game you didn't really trust what you were going to see from Chelsea. And I would say that actually Maresca is starting to fix that. And I was looking at the goals we've conceded so far. We've conceded 6 in 6 games. So not amazing, but also not bad. And what is almost reassuring in a weird way is that most of the goals we're conceding are down to individual mistakes. So it might sound a weird thing to say, but both goals on Saturday, this was probably Sanchez's fault. But actually it's much better that it's individuals making mistakes than it is systematic mistakes. In pre-season, for example, we looked disastrous defensively, didn't we? In a game against like Celtic with that high line, and we just looked all over the shop. Actually, now the season proper is here, we've not really felt that. And if you go back through and look at the goals we've conceded, not that you want to, most of them are down to sloppy decisions, bad passes up from the back, whatever it might be. So really, he's kind of addressed, I think, that balance of still being really potent and fun to watch going forward, but actually being a bit more solid defensively. And then the other side that I think we're really starting to see with Maresca, and maybe earlier than I thought we would, to be fair, is that you can pretty much name 8 or 9 of his starting lineup now. And that back 5, who, when they're fit, are basically playing. So we thought Tosin might come in for Fofana for a while. He hasn't. He's stuck with Fofana. He obviously really believes in that partnership with Fofana and Colwell, and fair play. They're both so young, why not? Cucurella's played every game, and obviously if Gusto's fit at the moment, he's playing every game as well with James out. So then with Sanchez behind them, that back 5's been pretty well set. As we know, Caicedo and Enzo, when they're fit, are going to play. And got a shout out to Enzo, because I've been critical of him on this podcast, but I think he's been really good in the last couple of games, and that's been great to see. And then, as we said, everything goes around Palmer. So Palmer's guaranteed. Jackson up top at the moment is guaranteed. So it's really only the wingers that you could argue you're going to see some rotation from in the season. And even now, at the moment, you think Sancho's got the left-hand slot kind of down at the moment for himself. And really, Madueke and Neto, I think, will be fighting that out a bit on the right. But again, having that kind of real clarity of what the team is so important. You want rotation, you want to be able to bring players in, and we've seen that with good effect when we have done it in the League Cup, for example. But actually, most top teams are built around a core of 7 or 8 players that play every week. So I think it's quite impressive, actually, that he's managed to do that so quickly. And the final comment I wanted to make, kind of looking at how we're faring at the moment, is about the connection with the fans. You felt it at Stamford Bridge on Saturday, and you could hear it. You could just feel, obviously, that first half, which was crazy. And I'm going to steal this from you, Joe, because I think it's worth repeating if anyone wants to go back and listen. But go and watch and listen to the reaction of that Cole Palmer free kick when it goes in, because the crowd celebration is above the standard. And I always say that, not all goals are celebrated equal. I always reflect back on Fernando Torres' first goal at Chelsea. It was one of the loudest cheers I've ever heard at the Bridge. It was special, the relief, more than anything, for him to get his first goal. But when Palmer's free kick went in, the roof felt like it was going to come off Stamford Bridge. And again, days like that, moments like that, are going to be really important. I don't sense it could be far off, if Chelsea carry on as we are, that Maresca starts getting his name sung, and you start to really feel that connection with him as well, which again, people might not think it's important, but I think it is. I think it is, again, if we want to build a top team again, then it really is important to have that. And yeah, let's hope the next 2 more home games, obviously coming to 4 in a row, if we could go into the international break with that run continuing, then we'll be in a very good mood indeed. But great work. I'm going to hand over now to a fan of the show, Alex Duffield. I had the pleasure of playing football with Alex for a few years, and I wanted Alex to do a little guest note for us about his feeling on the season so far. So thank you for being a part of the podcast, Alex, and over to you.
Hello guys, hope you're both doing well. Yeah, so if you were to tell me after 6 games we would be 4th in the league, especially after that wonderful pre-season we had, I would be pretty happy. We are top goal scorers in the league with 15, although I do like my stats. We are conceding on average just over 1 goal a game, which in comparison to last year is actually not too bad. I think we conceded a record 60 plus. As a defender myself, I wouldn't say the best. I thrive on clean sheets. Those 1-0 wins do hit a bit different in my eyes. Again, while I love Palmer scoring 4 goals in a game, conceding the goals in the manner in which we did yesterday and previous games, I think, does take a little emphasis away from the victory, because you just know, is it going to fix itself? But as I say, I believe you both did say previously about Sanchez in previous podcasts, it's only a matter of time until Maresca does give Jorgensen a go. I have had the pleasure of watching him in a few cup games at the Bridge, and I don't think he's put a foot wrong, again, against lesser opponents, but there is signs there. But yeah, Maresca nevertheless has been very good at making those quick changes with certain things, and in the build-up to the season, his approach to the players who weren't unfortunate in his plans was very direct, which did help us reduce the squad down quite a bit. And I think as a result, I believe Maresca does know who's in his starting 11, which I believe previous managers post-Tuchel have never really quite managed. So it's reassured that with Maresca, he does have a plan right now. It seems to be working in the league and other competitions in which we're in. So hopefully we can carry on that momentum against Forest this Sunday, I believe. Thank you again. Come on, you Blues.
I just wanted to sort of come on here and give a brief summary of what Cole Palmer is doing for Chelsea. And we all know, we've all got eyes and ears and things, but the guy he's mercurial, he's a magician, he's an absolute megastar. He makes me feel so at ease when Chelsea play now. I look at him and go, we've got a match winner. If he doesn't score, he's going to assist. And the thing is with Cole Palmer, he does nothing in ones, does he? He scores bags of goals. He gets bags of assists, all in the same game. He's absolutely frightening. And the fact that he's now the Premier League's assist and goal-scoring leader, even above the amazing Erling Haaland over the last, 12 to 18 months? I mean, it's just scary. 43 goals and assists for that guy. And he's just getting better. And every time you watch him play now, you're just thinking, he's going to do something. Don't worry, he's going to do something. And he's, I mean, you sort of said that he's not on Eden Hazard's sort of level yet, but I don't know. And people might laugh at me if I go, I think he's pretty damn good. I mean, I don't think Eden Hazard was doing stuff like this. I mean, he did it in other ways. Let's be fair, but what we're seeing from Cole Palmer is nothing short of unbelievable. I said to my sons at the weekend, I was like, this is Cristiano Ronaldo stuff. Yeah, this is him. If this was Ronaldo in his pomp, we'd all be going, oh my word, Ronaldo is the best player in the world. Quite frankly, whisper it quietly, but I think Cole Palmer might be right up there at the moment. I mean, name a better player than Cole Palmer and what he's doing currently for Chelsea. And it's not just his goals and assists, it's everything about him. I love the fact that he doesn't care for the media. I think the way that he goes on to them, he scored 4 goals and he'll just say, yeah, I know what I do. He's just mad. He's just such a nice, humbling guy. And you don't see it very often these days. When you got the likes of Mason Mount going on Instagram after United have been waxed 3-0 by Spurs with a picture of him combing his hair, I think I know what I'd rather have. £65 million for Mason Mount or 40 million for Cole Palmer. Let me take a think about that for about no seconds. I mean, to get him for 40 million quid is absolutely insane. And if he was playing for Man City at the moment, I mean, they would be unbelievable. Haaland and Palmer together. I'm so proud that we've got this guy in our team. Every time he plays, I think we've got a chance of winning. And there's no greater feeling than to turn up to a ground and have a star player on this level of playing that is just loving everything that he's doing. And we can't get enough of him. So, yeah, Cole Palmer, you're a living legend, mate.
Yeah, my first reaction when you said Cole Palmer is, doing more than Hazard was to kind of go, wow, no, come on, calm down. But to be honest, on reflection, it's not silly to say it at all, because just look at the numbers alone. The numbers are ridiculous. I mean, everyone's probably seen the stats going around. He's basically above just about everyone in the last 12 months, from Haaland to Mbappe, whoever you want to call, in terms of goals and assists. So the numbers themselves are ridiculous. And what is so fascinating about him as a player, and I can't even think of other players that have seen at Chelsea like it, is that he seems to be able to do it in so many different ways. And what I mean by that is, Hazard, I've always said, is the best player I've ever seen at Chelsea. I just think I loved watching him, and I think in terms of pure ability, he's the best I've ever seen at Chelsea. But with Hazard, you knew what his genius was. It was he'd play off the left, you get into him, he can be anywhere away from goal, and he'll turn defenders, he'll run at them, he'll put them on their bums, and then he'll score, he'll lay goals on a plate for people, whatever he might be. He was a genius. With Palmer, it's hard to put him in kind of a box, really, of, oh, he's a dribbler, because he can dribble, but that isn't his game, if it makes sense. He can pass from deep. That ball he played over the top for Jackson in the second half was almost laughable, wasn't it? And he played a few of them over the top. But he's also the runner from deep. So, for example, when he had the goal cleared off the line, yeah, he's the one running from deep, so he can make the run as well. We knew as a penalty taker, we can now see he's a free kick taker as well. He can hit free kicks. So there seems to be so much to his game. We're just watching his evolution in front of our eyes. And that in itself is just, it's just a joy, a sheer joy to watch, isn't it? And, if ever you needed a reminder, he has signed to Chelsea for the next 9 years. So what we could witness in that time is quite frightening. And you get this at clubs from time to time, when someone comes in and almost becomes not just the face of the club from a marketing point of view, but almost becomes a lot of what the club stands for, and kind of becomes the poster boy, really, for what the club is and what it can become. And I actually think in Palmer, we might have lucked out on something really special, because let's run through a few things. One, he's really likable. I think even opposition fans you can't help but not like Palmer, because he takes it all in his stride. He's so funny with it. He's so calm, as we said last week. It's almost like he plays football for fun, like he's having a kick around with his mates. So there's that side of things. He's off the pitch, he doesn't seem to have any ego. He just seems really balanced. He just seems to want to love playing football. So again, that feels like it's very much in our favour. Why did Chelsea even get him? Purely because he was frustrated not playing enough football at City. He wanted to get on loan. They wanted him to either stay or leave permanently. And, I'm sure City fans at this point are looking on with just dismay, really, of what he's doing and what he could become. And I think, and finally, because of his nature of being so hungry for goals, hungry to win games, hungry with all of those attitudes, he becomes just a perfect example to the rest of this young squad. You can just sense he's never happy until, he's got more. And you said this a few times, Joe, about wanting to see a Chelsea team that kind of like aren't happy going 1-0 up, aren't happy just sort of sitting, but actually want to go and, strangle the opposition when it's there for them. And I think in Palmer, you've really got the leading man in that. And I think there are moments in time as a fan of whoever you are, but I think as Chelsea fans, as most of us are listening to this, where you've just got to really enjoy what's in front of you and really make the most of it. I remember, definitely thinking that with going back to Eden Hazard back in the day, and almost looking now thinking, did I enjoy him enough? Well, I think in Palmer, we have something we can very much enjoy. So long may it continue.
So we were speaking last week a little bit about how we both feel as though this is a team that we can start to like again, and none more so at the weekend. I'm looking at the players and how they're kind of enjoying things under Maresca, and the smiles on faces. And even when Sanchez made his mistakes, there was something that that was in me that made me think that, do you know what, we're not gonna give this game up. And I think as a supporter, that's the biggest thing you can ask for. Having watched the Man United game yesterday afternoon, you're looking at that and you're going, before the ball was kicked, United had basically given up. They don't seem to trust the ideas. They don't seem to trust Ten Hag at all. You know, his kind of management style is quite quiet on the touchline. You don't really know, are they a pressing team? Do they sit back? I literally don't know what Man United are. And I think Maresca, in the space of a few short weeks, has proven to me that you know what his identity kind of is. And amongst anything else, the players seem to trust him and the players seem to back him. And you only get performances like Saturday when the players are all bought into his ideas and what he wants to do. I really felt as though this was a team that we can start to trust again and not just like. There'll be times when we don't win or play our best, but you can kind of forgive that when you know the week after isn't going to be another shambles and the week after that another shambles. You get the sense that they're going to put a run of games together and there'll always be blips, there'll always be draws, there'll always be defeats that you don't deserve and wins you don't deserve either. But I felt as though the game on Saturday kind of went a long way to prove that the team was fully backing the manager and his ideas. I mean, we were under like massive pressure in the opening moments of that game, and Brighton just didn't let us settle at all. And there seems to be a real desire to beat Chelsea in the Brighton dressing room, even more so than on the other side. They don't seem to like us at all. And the amount of pressure they put us under in the early going was unbelievable. And even after a dreadful error, like the Chelsea players, they came alive. They didn't stop believing what they were trying to achieve, which is really commendable. I sort of had this like massive burst of pride. I've sort of been waiting for that as a fan for forever. Like, it seems to be like, we keep hopping on about Tuchel days and things, but Tuchel under his management gave me that sense of pride. And I think it's been a long time. And not just that we've had different managers and different players and things like that, but we generally have been really quite weak and timid, and performances have been so piss poor. And that season under Potter and Lampard and stuff, I mean, it was so bad. It was a bit better under Pochettino last year, but you still felt as though we were soft and we would go under. I mean, we definitely would have gone under against Brighton last season based on the performance on Saturday. There's no two ways about it. I think the way the team is sort of responding to tough moments is remarkable now. We don't seem to fear a back-to-the-wall performance like we had at Bournemouth or a comeback victory like we had yesterday at Brighton. The win was impressive, particularly because we hadn't had a home win yet. And in a bad situation, we've given away a terrible mistake. And not only did we come back to win, we wanted to completely eviscerate Brighton. They were there for the taking. And we were like, do you know what? We're going to get as many goals as possible. Okay, 4 goals is great. Chelsea could have had 10. And that would have been being kind. I mean, 3 goals disallowed, hit the woodwork twice, multiple chances, cleared off the line. I mean, it would not have been beyond the realms if we'd got 6 or 7 or 8 on Saturday, and that would have been a fair scoreline. I feel as though there's no longer like a shut up shop mentality with Chelsea. We're going for the kill, like on every opportunity we get, and the belief of young players and young men means there's no like mental scars on this team. And Maresca has them sort of searching for goals on every single attack. And these players almost demand that of themselves now, which is fantastic. I'd also sort of say, like on Maresca, like the idea that he came out in pre-season and he had to fend off questions about Sterling and other such players, Chilwell and things, to sort of go, well, he's not in my plans. Now, whether or not that was a club decision and Maresca was kind of fronting that up, or whether or not that was Maresca saying, Sterling isn't a player that I particularly enjoy working with, not as a person, but as a type of player. I think he's got a lot of credit in the bank. I mean, his reputation there has only gone through the roof because, I mean, has anyone missed Sterling? I mean, no. And if in the future players come up that we don't particularly want to sell as fans, but actually for the greater of the club, it's worth doing, then Maresca's going to have kind of a reputation of going, well, you know what? He was right about Sterling. He was right about this player or that player. And I think if we can keep a solid manager for a period of time, we're all going to start trusting his on-field tactics and his off-field tactics. You know what I mean? So buying and selling players is a huge part of what Chelsea's DNA seems to be about and always has been. So if you can get the right players in at the right time and not keep chopping and changing your manager around, then those players will fit into a system of the manager's choosing. So no one questions Pep when he buys a player. If you're a Man City fan, they just go, oh, yep, they bought this guy. He's going to fit in. He's going to be great. And we all move on. You know, I think that's what Chelsea fans need to get to that point with Maresca, is that we want to believe in everything that he says, because, you know, he's got a lot of decisions right at the moment, and long may it continue. But with regards to the on-field stuff, we're on a good path. So long may it continue.
So we play Nottingham Forest this weekend, of course, and it was a special game for me because, for those who don't know, I lived in Nottingham for 5 years. I went to university there and then had my first ever job up in Nottingham as well. So know Forest very well, know a lot of Forest fans, and, you know, just my luck, all of the time that I lived in Nottingham, Forest were struggling in the Championship, so never made it into the Premier League. So I never actually got to see Chelsea play at Forest while I lived there. But they've obviously started the season well, and yeah, we played them off the back of losing last week at Fulham in a pretty tight game. But you have to fancy us, don't you? The way we're playing, again, we know there'll be huge amounts of rotation with a midweek game. So come Sunday, you'd expect most of the 11, if not the whole 11, let's be honest, to be the same as we saw against Brighton. And I reflect actually back to the game against Forest last year, because that felt, we lost 1-0 at home. It was kind of middle of September, and it felt a bit of a kind of statement for how the season was going to go, and certainly the first half of the season did, with kind of real missed chances, sloppy defending, and just that real feeling that we've had at Chelsea for a couple of years, let's be honest, of just this, what we're going to see today type thing. Now, going into the game on Saturday, I think most of us, if not all, will be feeling really buoyant and confident. And we've said it before, and we didn't win last time against Palace, but going into the international break, always desperate to win, because it's a long time having to wait for Chelsea to kind of rectify the situation again. The talk, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, suddenly in the media is like, could Chelsea be title contenders and that kind of stuff? Now, I don't think they will, but I don't think most of us do. But we do have an opportunity to be a solid top four, and I think you could even sneak into top three conversation this season. But you have to win games like this. And to put a marker down by kind of going on this run of 4 league wins in a row would be just brilliant. And Forest will definitely pose a threat. They're really dangerous out wide. They don't look like a team, one of those, classic team that's just come up anymore. They look like a fairly established Premier League team, actually. And I think they'd be a decent bet to be top half of the table this season, the way they've started the year. So it won't be an easy game. And I'm going to hand over actually to a Forest fan, as we always do. So very thankful to Stuart McDonald for giving us his preview and a bit of a flavour of kind of how Forest are looking going into the game, what he expects. And then we'll hand over from Stuart over to Joe for his preview of the game.
Hey, great to be invited on and to chat all about the Tricky Trees, the team that so many people seem to love as a second team. Although since we've been back in the Premier League, it doesn't feel quite like that anymore. It's been a good start to the season for Forest. I'd have taken 9 points and 10th place at this point, although a win on Saturday would have put us 6th, which is really dizzying heights for us. But we do need to keep this going. It's year 3 of our return to the Premier League after 23 years away, and we now need to cement our position in the division, not be everyone's pick to be in the bottom 5 teams. Year 1 for us was all about surviving. Ridiculous squad sizes, laughing stock of the Premier League because of this, and you could see that play out on the field in those first few months as Steve Cooper tried to find the right balance. We did survive, but it was tough and close. Year 2 was pretty much the same. We were all expecting more, but it was tight all year, and with the threat of an unknown number of points deduction, which in the end we managed to ride out successfully. And at the end of the season, there were a few points between us and Luton, but it wasn't many. I don't think I'd ever watched so much football that year. It's weird being a fan towards the bottom of the league, as you just watch all the teams around us play and you just want them to lose or drop points. That's not healthy, is it? Year 3 is positive. Starting to gel as a team and hoping for a mid-table finish. I'd be really pleased if we're somewhere around 10th, between 10th and 14th. Although away form is currently better than our home form, which is a complete reverse to the last 2 seasons. Last year, we only won 2 games on the road and only 13 points in total, which was better than just the 1 game the prior year. And that's where we're at this year already. It would be nice to have us closer to 50% possession in games rather than the standard 30 to 35% that we seem to balance out at. But, baby steps. Now I want to tell you about the key players within the Forest squad. You can't go much further without starting at Morgan Gibbs-White. He's the maestro. He pulls the strings. He's incredibly passionate and I think probably one of the best buys for us over the last couple of years. We sorely missed him against Fulham and it'll be great to have him back after his red card. Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga on the wings are super quick and play to the strengths of the fast break. The Forest strategy is to absorb pressure and then fast break with these two. Murillo, an absolute beast at the back. Our best defender and apparently being courted by some of the big European clubs. He was unlucky to give away the penalty on Saturday. Turning to the game this weekend, Chelsea away was obviously a highlight for us last season. As I said earlier, we only won 2 games away from home. But this season, you absolutely look different class. And I'm not sure we're going to be able to cope with Cole Palmer. I'd personally be happy with a point from the game. I think Chelsea will be too strong for us on their day, but watch out for the counter-attack. In the last couple of games, Nuno started Hudson-Odoi and Elanga on the bench and got the team to sit back and absorb pressure, and then bring them on in the second half when gaps start to form on the pitch to give them the freedom to run at the opposition and cause mayhem. There are a few key injuries for Forest at the moment. Danilo, Brazilian midfielder, had such a brilliant breakout season last year, and unfortunately broke his ankle in the 8th minute of our opening game against Bournemouth. He's likely to be out for most, if not all, of the season. He's going to be such a hard player for us to replace. Ibrahim Sangare, he's got a hamstring injury at the moment. He took a while to settle in after his move from PSV, but he has been making recently good progress. And Willy Bolly, the man with the super long throw, potent weapon of attack for us and sorely missed at the moment. That's it. Thanks for having me on. Enjoy the game this weekend. Up the tricky trees.
Massive thanks to Stu there. He's a huge Nottingham Forest fan and born and bred in Nottingham. And this guy loves his football and he loves his team. And I really enjoyed his voice note there. And he makes some really good points. I mean, the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White and Callum Hudson-Odoi, they are absolutely players to watch. But I think this is a Chelsea team that seems to be at a stage where they can cope with certain stuff. And there'll be times and there'll be moments in games and things where we do come unstuck and we do make mistakes and we will lose games again. I know that. I'm not getting ahead of myself too much, but I do feel as though this Chelsea team are learning every week. And I think where we're getting stronger now, even in the last month, is in central midfield. I feel as though that is an area we have, even though we've signed Enzo and Caicedo, it's never felt 100% amazing. And we had obviously Gallagher last year and he did a job in a different sort of way to Enzo. But I feel as though that's a position that we're really learning, and the stronger we become in that area, the more chance you win football matches. It's as simple as that. And if Enzo can be the string puller, and if Caicedo can be the guy that basically smashes everybody to pieces and occasionally puts a good ball through for somebody else to score a goal too, then that's a really good 1-2. I think that's an area that Chelsea, if they win that battle, they'll win the game comfortably. So be a good time for Chelsea to sort of, give Hudson-Odoi a few cheers and a few claps. He even mentioned it in midweek that he said he's coming back to the Bridge. Hasn't been back there yet, and he doesn't know what sort of reception he's going to get, but he says he wants a good reception because he loves Chelsea, and I think that's a really nice thing to say, actually. You don't often hear opposing players say that. I know he's here a long time, but he clearly has a affinity for the club and he loves the club, and I think that's something we should all remember. But I think it'd be a good time for Chelsea's wingers to sort of just say to him and Nottingham Forest and anybody else who was around at the time that thinks that Hudson-Odoi was a huge mistake that we sold him, is for one of our wingers to go and really stamp their quality all over this game and kind of make Hudson-Odoi a thing of the past. Because even though I like the guy, even though he was always a good player for us, he always did okay, but we sold him for a reason, let's be fair. But even though Forest had a good start to the season, I do expect Chelsea to come out a bit like they did against Brighton. I don't think Forest will play quite as high a line as Brighton did. I think they'll be a little bit more condensed and they'll try and hit us on the counter-attack, as Stu said. But I think Chelsea are going to be so fresh, and this team might have played midweek. It'll be a completely different 11. So that's why I'm going for Chelsea to win. I think Cole Palmer's in too good a form. I think Jackson and Noni are playing well. I think there's lots of the players like Enzo and Caicedo also banging form, and I just feel as though we're gonna come out, be too strong, score some early goals, and hopefully make it a nice, easy afternoon. And let's just hope Sanchez doesn't put us in the shit like he did this weekend. So, yep, I'm going for a Chelsea win, and pretty comfortable, actually.
Okay, so we end, as always, with our best and worst memories of the fixture, and I am going to do Chelsea at home to Forest. And actually, I wanted to go back in time a little bit for this one, not just to show my age, but also just to kind of tell a little story about how quickly Chelsea progressed. Now, the classic story you get told is that, Chelsea were nothing before Abramovich, and, Chelsea were nowhere. But actually, these two games I'm going to talk about, I think, tell a story of the truth, really, and how quickly Chelsea developed over the years. So the first game, the bad one, was Chelsea v Forest in January 1995. So show my age here. I would have been 12 years old at the time. Chelsea were well beaten. It was 2-0 on the night. I remember being there. It was a miserable January night, and it felt like men against boys. They had Stan Collymore up front, who was the big kind of hot thing. He would end up going to Liverpool at the end of that season for a record fee at the time, and he scored 2 goals. And if you look back at them, he looked double the size of some of our players. I mean, admittedly, we had 2 very little strikers in Sheen and Spencer up front, but he felt like a beast against our players. And you look at the Chelsea team that day, and some great players in their own right, but it was a very different era. So we had a very English midfield of Eddie Newton, Gavin Peacock, and Nigel Spatman, the aforementioned Sheen and Spencer up front with Paul Furlong. And the crowd that day at Stamford Bridge, I think, as well deserves mentioning. It was just under 18,000 was at the ground on that cold Wednesday night. Now, wind forward to September 1998, so just 3.5 years later. And I think this is a good story for just how much Chelsea progressed. So that day, Chelsea won the game, and the first goal was scored after 25 seconds by Gianfranco Zola, and the second, which would end up being the winning goal, was scored by Gus Poyet. And the Chelsea team that day, it's so cosmopolitan. It's such it's like a list of international superstars, really. If I'm looking at the lineup here, the only surviving member of the team was Eddie Newton, but the rest of the team was Ed de Hoy in goal, Dutchman. Centre-backs, French World Cup winners, Desailly and Leboeuf. You had Graham Lasso and Dan Petrescu, Celestine Barriaro, Poyet, and then the front two, actually one of his few games before he got injured, of Casaraghi, who'd sadly his career would be ended not too long later, and Zola. And for good measure, Brian Laudrup came on for Casaraghi that day as well. The Chelsea crowd in the space of 3.5 years that day, that was doubled. So again, it was a weekend game, not a midweek, used to have an effect in those days, but it was over 34,000 at the Bridge. And again, being a fan and still young at that age, it just felt like you're almost watching a different club, and this progression in the sake of a 3.5 year period was just crazy. It was a really exciting time to be a Chelsea fan, and Chelsea were not long off, in fact, the Forest game having won the Super Cup against Real Madrid as well. So it just shows how far Chelsea had come in that period. And this was, effectively building the blocks which would lead to Abramovich buying the club. And then we know what happened from there. So, yeah, I wanted to pick out 2 games that I think tell a story of where Chelsea came from and to in the 90s and became the club we are now. And here's hoping that on Sunday we have more of the latter. Come on, Chelsea. Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be alright.